Somebody asked, could we make a Keurig cup holder in the shape of a purse? So I just thought I'd play around with it and see what I could do. What I came up with was this purse cut out of patterned paper. It was really kind of cute, and it's really easy. You just have to decide how tall and how wide and all that. So I'll give you an idea of how I did that. These were the pieces that I used, and I found that when you're doing a trapezoid shape like the purse, it was pretty much easier to draw the lines using the Bezier draw. And so I found the measurements that worked for me, and I put snapping on at 1/8 of an inch, well, 1/4 of an inch to start with. And the top of the purse, this part here, you can make it whatever you want, but I made mine at 4.5 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Now I don't have to have a steady hand. I'm going to right click to end the line. Because I have snapping on it, just automatically goes straight, and that's a good thing. And then we have the purse's front of it is 4.25 inches wide. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.25 would be right about here. And so I'm going to left click, and then I'm going to right click where I want it to end. Well, the bottom of the purse is 5.25 inches wide. I think I'm going to make it just 5 inches because this is going to be a score line. If you see the example to the right, I right click to end the line. These lines here are score lines, and they don't go all the way to the edge just so it doesn't weaken the fold. So I'm just going to make these 5 inches, but the box itself will be 5.25. And then this section in here, which is the bottom of the box, it's going to be 2 3/4 inches high. So here's the 3/4, 1, 2. So I'm going to left click here and right click here. So that's going to represent the bottom of the purse. And then I need another section here that is 4.25 inches high. So 1, 2, 3, 4.25. So I'll just left click here. It automatically pops to 1/4 because I've got the snap position there, and I'm going to 4.5. So I right click there. Now you notice I started on the same line here, but that's just for practical purposes. What I want to do is select them all and type a V, and when I type V, it centers them all vertically, which is what I wanted. Now these are score lines, so I'm going to send them to their own layer as score lines, and then now what I want to do is just draw lines to connect the dots, but I don't want to connect these middle dots, so I'm going to change my snapping to 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to left click where that red circle is, so I'm going to connect to that line, and I'm going to come down here right next to that green one but not on it, and left click, and likewise here. I don't want it, you'll see a red circle if you connect to it. I don't want to connect because I'm doing solid lines. If I connect with a dash line, then I would change my outline to dashed, and I don't need that. So left click here, and then I'll right click when I see the circle at the bottom. So I'll do the same thing on this side. Left click at the circle, left click right next to that green dot, left click next to that green dot, and then right click when I get the circle. And that gives me a box. Now all I need to do is add the handle. Now you can make any shape of handle you want. I start with a circle, click on basic shapes, double click on the circle, and I need another one, so I'll just double click it again. need the inside and the outside of the circle. You can make them any size you want. I really just kind of eyeballed it, and you can bring it up here, and if you put the, I can make that a tan color so I can see it. If you make that as big as you want, I mean, you could take it out all the way to the edge if you wanted, but I'll do it with the corner to keep it round for now because it's going to have a center. I did mine about 3 3/4 inches wide, and just line that plus up with the top. And then I made this one to be 1 3/4, 1.75, and enter. Then if you select both of those circles, you can join or stack them, type S to stack, and then you can join, and you've got the handle. You select all and move them down a little bit so we can see them. Okay, so these lines again are score lines, and I'll just make them dashed for visual purposes right now. So you can see I have the bottom of the purse here, I have the handle here. I want to make sure the handle's lined up vertically with the purse, so I will type a V, and that moves right over. And now I'm going to duplicate this. If you want the handles to be less round, this is a rounded style. If you want it less round, you could make it kind of rounded like that. It doesn't matter. I'll try this one round, the oval. And I'll hold Control Shift and drag to get another, and drag it near the bottom. And again, I want to make sure I have all three, and I'll type a V to line them up. And now you could make the handle a different color if you wanted to. If you wanted to make them, let's say you wanted them to be purple, you could do that. But what I'm going to do now is hold Shift and click each of the three shapes I'm going to weld together. So now I have my purse design, and I have overlays. If I wanted to do that kind of a decoration, I could cut these in half and just make the handle purple, or I can just totally not use them at all. So this is the purse. Now you notice it's a little long to cut out on a 12 by 12, but if you click again, you get the rotation handles. Since I've selected everything, then everything rotates together, and I can continue rotating until it fits on my page, and this size fits nicely. So that part's finished. Now what I need to do is make the inside part, which is this little piece right here. Bring it over here. Basically, it's I made it stand up an inch from the bottom. That means the cups that you would put in it would be undo. The cups that you would put in it the bottom would be an inch. It would hold a wrap around the Keurig cups 1 inch from the bottom. So the sizes that I found that they make these cup sizes as use a measuring tool over here, and you can hover over it, it'll tell you the size. So this opening is at 1 3/4 inch. I didn't have any Keurig cups to measure, so if those happen to be up 1 inch from the bottom, if they happen to be a little bit bigger, you would have to make these holes a little bit bigger. So be sure to measure the diameter of your cups 1 inch from the bottom. If it doesn't fit, well, if I've already got it cut, which I have one cut already, it's easy to make a whole nother insert, but I could just do little slits to make it a little larger, and it would hold them in there very firmly if I needed it larger. But meanwhile, The bottom piece here, I made this 2.5 inches between these two score lines, and then gave it an extra inch for the fold lines. So that gives it 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So I need a rectangle that's 4.5 inches. So I'm going to type in SQ for square, double click, and I've got the square added, and the square is going to be 4.5 inches tall, and I want it slightly narrower than the box, which ended up being 5.25 inches. So 4.5 is a pretty good size to keep the contents contained within the purse design. So I'm going to make this a perfect square. I'll just make it 4.5 and enter. So I have my box, and again, I'll just make it the same color for now. Or maybe I should make it gold or orange. And I need to, oops, I should lock that. You know, if you keep moving stuff around that you don't want to move, you can click on the lock to lock it. That way it won't move. That's hiding it, but locking it, that means no matter what I do, I can't select it and move it. I noticed that other people who made designs for little purses and inserts did it so that you could put the design all on one sheet. So when I cut mine, I just didn't want to cut a whole nother piece of paper because I wanted them to match. So I just, of course, I locked them. I move it over as far as I can move it. And I had a little tiny corner cut out, but you know, you could make the insert just a little narrower so that it wouldn't quite cut into the purse if you wanted to cut it all out of the same printable material. So I have this snapping on at 1/8 of an inch. I could snap at 1 inch, and then I could draw my lines. So I'll add a new layer with bigger green plus icon on the left click on the left side, right click on the right side, and of course snapping at 4.5, so I'm going to need a 1/2 inch here. Left click at 1 inch here, right click here, and I'll take the snapping off. One disadvantage of snapping is you can't get the fine little measurements here, so I can just select those and drag them out. So now I have my base, and all I need to do is add the circles. I'll go get the circles up here and type in CI, double click on the circle. I'll make one circle and resize it to 1 3/4 inch. And hold Control, Shift, and drag, and I can align these to the bottom by typing B, and I can, with those selected, I can type H to horizontally align along this so they're centered in here. And I could join these and then horizontally align everything. I think if I can hold Shift, click, and then type S to stack, and it stacks them perfectly. See that the plus icons of the lines and the shapes all line up here. So now I've got this line and this line are score lines. I'll send them to their own layer and make those dashed. If I want to use my engraving tool or my embossing tool to do these score lines, I would leave them solid or change them to solid. And these holes, I could change their color too. Don't have to. I'll hide the dash lines and join these so you can see what they'll look like once they're cut. Now I can show those lines, and now we have all the pieces that we need for a purse. We have the purse thing here. What you do is just fold on this line, and I added a ribbon. It was so simple. You could make dozens of these really quick. They cut very quickly. Then you have a nice insert here to go inside. You just make a mountain fold on each side and glue this against the side. Once you folded this, you have this glued to the side and this one glued to the side.